Really quick, everybody, this entire video will be timestamped, so if you don't want to watch the link and just get straight into a different fight, please check the pinned comment or check the little red bar right down below you. Again, this entire video will be timestamped, and I'd appreciate you guys watching whatever part that you like. And if you're sticking around, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to our UFC Fight Night full card breakdowns and predictions, and you could say get betting tips. If I'm betting on a fight, I will usually tell you guys. Timestamps are there if you need them. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know what your picks are down below in the comments afterwards. Starting off with the first fight, Carlston versus Abubakar Nurmagomedov. And guys, I gotta say, I got Nurmagomedov in this one. I did not like the way Carlston looked in his last fight. Here's the thing, though. He lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov, okay? That's a very, very good loss. That aged very well. We just saw him get a fantastic win over Jeff Neal recently. He's been on a little bit of a roll beforehand, right? However, I don't know, man. I feel like he lacks a little bit of technical ability to fight a guy like Nurmagomedov here. He's looked good in his last fights, had a little bit of a hiccup here, but still beat Jared Gordon, beat Gazchi Omar Gazachiev, and I apologize, I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong. So I think he'll be able to win a comfortable decision here. I don't like the way Harris fought, especially in his last fight. I'm not hyped on him, man, but I'm not exactly hyped that Nurmagomedov is looking like the other Nurmagomedovs in the division, or excuse me, in the UFC. But I think he should win this one. Moving on to the next fight. Guys, this is a very interesting one. We have Tyson versus Bruno Silva. So the first thing I do want to say is Bruno Silva's coming back of a layoff, and I don't remember. Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Almost 2 years. I remember he's been off for a little while. He's looked really good in his last fights, though. Really, really good. But he's fighting Tyson Nam. And here's the other side of the coin. Tyson Nam, for a guy that's in the 125-pound division, how often do you see someone that's 40 years old? That I don't like, because especially the lighter the weight class, the more you can't be old. You know what I mean? The heavyweights get away with it because they're cardio and they're a little bit more sloppy, but these flyweights are just absolute animals, man. I don't like the fact that he's 40, and I'm almost picking against him just because of that. He has, like, you've seen he has a couple wins, couple losses. Ode Osborne looked okay. The problem is Ode Osborne, he looked great in his last fights, okay? But he always fights with his hands so down, his chin so up in the air, so he's always, like, open to getting caught with something. Lost to Matt Schnell. I don't know how I feel about that one. Matt Schnell, yeah, not the best loss. But Jeremy Rivera and Zaruka Adeshev, and I'm not too familiar with this fighter here. Regardless, his wins have been okay. Ode Osborne I like as a win. But honestly, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm picking against him just because he's 40 in the flyweight division. That's the only reason. But Bruno Silva is also really good, and Tyson Nam has some crazy knockout power, especially for the flyweight division. This is going to be an interesting fight. I'm like 75% on Bruno Silva's side, because if he wasn't 40, I might go with Tyson Nam. I'm going to go with Silva, but I'm not too sure about this fight. Moving on to the next fight, and guys, spoiler alert, there's a 50-50 fight. Tony Gravely versus Victor Henry. Both great fighters, and it's funny as their last fights are pretty similar, okay? His last fight against Javid Bashrat aged very, very well, but he's fought some okay opponents. Like, I really like the way he's been fighting. Both these guys are good, but don't scream anything special to me, okay? They're both 31, 30, or excuse me, not both 31. They're both in their early 30s. 35's pushing it a little bit, but still, Victor Henry, I don't like that he did lose to Raphael Assuncao. Assuncao is really old now. That loss didn't age too well, okay? And that's his only win only fight in over a year. This fight should be a 50-50, but the only reason, honestly, I'm going with Tony Gravely is because I don't like how Victor Henry performed in his last fight, but you could chalk that up to a little bit of ring rust, but even then, it's like, that's really pushing it, because how much ring rust is that really? I like this dude, Tony Gravely. He's in his prime. I think he's going to get this one, but no, I don't think he's going to get this one. It's more of a 50-50 fight. I'm picking him because I didn't like how he performed in his last fight, Henry. Maybe he can get the momentum back, but they're both good fighters. It should be a really good one. Moving on to the next fight, JJ Aldrich versus Ariane Lipski. The Queen of Violence is back, okay? First one thing I want to say is Aldrich lost her last fight, didn't look good at all, but it's aged very well in Ariane Blanchfield, who is now going to, assuming the rematch doesn't happen with Valentina Shevchenko, Dana White said that she's going to have a title fight, assuming she sits out. So that's a very good loss to have. I don't mind this. Like, I ignored this performance completely. Other than that, she's been looking great. The competition's been, but the problem, that's what you get in the women's divisions, right? Ariane Lipski, very inconsistent. She came to the UFC looking pretty good, but she's win, lose, win. You know, nothing special about her. I don't think she shines anywhere. I think JJ Aldrich is going to win this fight, but the problem is it's women's MMA, and anything can happen in women's MMA. Look what happened to Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso. Who gave Alexa Grasso a chance? Stylistically, she should lose that every single time, but of all things, she got a submission. That's what I'm going with here. So I'm never betting on a women's fight again, I swear to God, unless it's like Miesha Tate's fighting. I'm betting against her. She'll lose every single time, but I'm going to go with Aldrich. She should win this fight, but in women's MMA, anything can happen. Moving on to the next fight, this should be pretty simple. Mario Bautista versus Guido Cannetti. Now, Mario Bautista is going to absolutely annihilate him. And look, minus 900. I am not saying anything that's just groundbreaking news here. Guido Cannetti, 43 years old, still in the UFC, in the bantamweight division. Like we were talking about with another fight, you can't be old in these lighter divisions. This is the second lightest division. He has 2 wins, but look who they're against. Randy Costa and Chris Moutinho. No disrespect to them, but they're probably the worst in the bantamweight division. Other than that, Manny Martinez, and as soon as you fight anybody of significance, he loses, okay? 10-6, inconsistent. Mario Bautista, I don't like his loss against Trevin Jones, but still, winning his fights after that, looked great doing it. He's in his prime. He's going to murder this guy. This is going to be a no-brainer. I don't even see a lucky knockout happening. Mario Bautista is going to win this fight. Moving on to the next fight, Sedriques Dumas versus Josh Fremd. Okay, here's the thing for me. I'm not convinced of this fight. You could look at Dumas and say 7-0. He's looked great, but who's he fought? Really? Okay fighters, but nothing special here. On the other hand, Josh has some losses, but he's fought much better competition. Much better. I don't know who's going to win this fight. Dumas is on a roll. I can see him picking him apart from the feet and even taking him down if he wants to. He's very good. But he hasn't fought the competition that his opponent's facing yet. I don't know who's going to win this fight. I'm almost going with Josh Fremd. I'm almost going with him. I'm like 55-45 on this one. I'm not convinced of Dumas yet. I'm not convinced. If he wins this fight, then I'll be looking a little bit closer to him, but I'm not picking him for now. Close fight, though. Moving on to the next fight. This is going to be very interesting. Raphael Assuncao versus Davey Grant. I got to say, of course, I always put my bias aside on these videos. I'm a big fan of Raphael Assuncao. Really, really like the dude. I was very surprised to see him perform as well as he did in his last fight against Victor Henry. I don't like that he's 40, and I don't like that he has not looked good. He has not looked the same in his last 4 fights. He's lost to Ricky Simon in these losses. He lost to Miles Morales, but then again, that's 4 years ago. Like, he's been an inactive fighter, okay? Cody Garbrandt lost too, and that's when Cody Garbrandt sucked. I don't like that loss, but then Ricky Simone's okay loss, and Corey Sandhagen is a very good loss, and one that ages very well. He looked great in his last fight, though, and I was so surprised about that. 40 years old. Davey Grant, his losses have also aged very well. He had a big win over Luis Smoka, Adrian Yanez, and Marlon Vera. These 2 losses have aged extremely, extremely well. Especially, he got a win over Jonathan Martinez, who's, I believe, is fighting on this card, if not the next one. Regardless, he's also 37. This is an even fight. I don't know, man. A lot of close fights on this card. I'm going to lean towards Assuncao because he looked spectacular in his last fight. But I don't like picking 40. I don't like picking 40, but then again, he's 37. If Davey Grant was like 32, 33, I'd be going with him for sure. Close fight, though. Close fight. Another 55-45. I'm going to go with the Assuncao. Moving on to the next fight, Brzeski versus Karl Williams. Now, something to note, Brzeski is coming off a loss, but that was a horrible decision. A lot of people feel that way. I feel that way myself. I don't think he lost that fight. He was robbed. So you could say he's coming off of a win. Karl Williams, on the other hand, has looked very good. Very good and been very active. I like the momentum of Karl Williams. I feel like he'll be able to do whatever he wants, honestly. I can see a path of him taking him down, controlling, winning a comfortable decision. This one, I'm not too sure about, but still, I think Karl Williams is a little bit more on the safer side here. I like the momentum he's been on, and he's looked real good. Real good, but you can't doubt this guy. The Bulls have been looking good too. Okay, you know what? Again, ignore his loss. Just don't think of it that way. Karl Williams, he's looked good. I think he's pretty fast for a heavyweight, which I like. I like it. I'm going to go Karl Williams in this one. Moving on, this should be a very fun one. Vitor Petrino versus Anton Turkalj. Okay. This guy, Petrino, is one to look out for. 7-0, 25. Crazy power. I can see him chinning the Pleasure Man. I think that's how this fight's going to go. But he's looked good too. Coming off of a loss, which is, but then again, that loss has aged very well. A lot of guys had really good losses on this card. Like, guys, this is a really good card. I don't know, man. Yeah, he didn't get chinned yet, but I feel like Petrino's going to chin him. I can just see that happening. I like the momentum he's on. He's looked like an absolute killer. I'm going to Vitor Petrino on this one. I think he's got it. Moving on to the next fight, and guys, I'm almost looking forward to this fight just as much as the main event. We have Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez. Nurmagomedov has looked like, and especially in his last fight, he has looked like the hype is real, okay? He's been on an absolute tear. Looking great, and he really proved that in his last fight. The guy has momentum. But speaking of momentum, Jonathan Martinez, he's picking up quite the amount of wins here. He's looked good and looked really good. Okay, this guy has been fighting Jonathan Martinez. I am becoming such a big fan of him. Every single time he's in there, it's just an absolute pleasure to watch, okay? I hope he wins this fight. I hope so, and I hope he does well. I will cheer for this dude all the way to the top. I can see him becoming one of my favorite fighters one day, truthfully. I don't think he's going to get past Nurmagomedov. This guy, he seems like he's a little bit built different. And I'm not saying he's like the best fighter ever, okay? But his last performance, man, was just so good. And he's been on such a roll. Both guys, man, they've been looking real good. Jonathan Martinez, crazy good striking. Power looked great. But Nurmagomedov seems too well-rounded. I feel like he's going to take him down. And I feel like he's going to finish him. I hope Jonathan Martinez wins this fight. I hope so. I want to cheer for him all the way to the top. But I think Said Nurmagomedov's got this. I'm on the train now. I'm officially on the train. Unfortunately, hopefully I'm proved wrong. Hopefully Jonathan Martinez wins. Be there with me. Let's cheer for him. Moving on to the next fight, Ricardo Ramos versus Austin Lingo. This one's interesting because both fighters, I'm not too hyped on both fighters. Ricardo Ramos, win-loss. The losses haven't aged well, that's for sure. Austin Lingo looked great in his last couple fights, but still, the competition isn't exactly there. I almost want to go with Lingo in this fight. For some reason, I can see him getting a knockout. I can see the odds aren't necessarily agreeing, though, right? This one's a tough one. Ramos, I'm not impressed. I'm not convinced about this dude yet. Lights Out Lingo is fun, looked good, has very crisp boxing. I'm going to go with Lingo. Like a 70-30. Should be a very interesting fight. I'm interested to see about this one. If Ramos wins this one, I'll be a little bit more convinced, but still not yet. I'm more convinced of Lingo than I am Ramos. That's why I'm picking Lingo to win. Moving on, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann. This fight was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, but it got canceled because Krylov got sick. I don't think they specified why specifically it did get canceled, but that's something to pay attention to is he okay? And you got to pay attention like they're cutting weight again. That might be a little bit of an issue so soon. I originally, when I broke this fight down, I picked Nikita Krylov because Ryan Spann is very inconsistent. He looked great in his last fights, okay? I'll say this quickly. Dominic Reyes, shell of his former self. Ion Cutelaba loses to everybody. So these wins are they really that good? Lost to Anthony Smith. That's not a good guy to lose to. His wins and losses have not aged well. Misha Cirkunov, a win that everybody meets Misha Cirkunov. And then Johnny Walker. He looked good in his last fight, but still, Johnny Walker wasn't looking good. His last wins aged poorly, and his last losses aged poorly. I think Spann is a little bit too hyped up right now, and Nikita Krylov has looked fantastic. I know Gustafson's not a win that aged very well, okay? But listen, these two losses aged very well. He's like the complete opposite. Okay? Volkan Oezdemir, I love the way he looked that fight. He's in his prime. The problem is Ryan Spann is one of those guys with that power that can really connect with anybody and shut your lights off. I feel like Krylov will survive that, and he might get a submission. Either that, I have a hard time seeing this fight go 5 rounds. Oh, it's not 5 rounds anymore. That's interesting. I didn't think about that. It's not a 5-round fight anymore. Originally, it was. Still, I feel like Krylov will find a submission. But don't be surprised to get a decision. I think Krylov should win this one comfortably. But when you got a guy with a power Spann, anything can happen. I'm going with Krylov, though. Next fight, co-main event. This should be a very fun one, guys. Alexander Volkov versus Alexander Romanov. These two have been on a collision course. Volkov, speaking of inconsistent like we were, dude's inconsistent, but the problem is, dude is good. Look, lost Cyril Gahn aged very well. Lost on Tom Aspinall aged very well. Alexander Volkanov just had a hiccup against Marcin Tybura. Didn't look good in that fight, but before that, on an absolute tear. But he hasn't fought the competition that Alexander Volkov has. This is a toughie, because Alexander Volkov, I don't know what to think every time he gets in there. Romanov just had his first loss, but that's against the best competition that he's fought so far. I'm not sure about this one. I'm going to go with Volkov because I think it's a safer pick. I think he'll be able to keep him on the outside because, of course, look at the big reach difference. It's not too huge, but still, I'm not convinced King Kong belongs at the top of the heavyweight division yet. So that's why I'm going with Alexander Volkov. But I would not be surprised if Romanov did end up getting the win and getting... Is it an upset? Oh, no, he's the favorite. Very interesting. I'm going to go with Volkov in this one, but I'm not sure about it. Moving on to the main event, one of my favorite fighters of all time, Peter No Mercy Yan. Piotr Yan has got this fight in the bag. He's my lock of the night. I do not see a way Merab wins this fight. I cannot believe that I'm looking at Piotr Yan's record and we're seeing 3 L's here. Unbelievable. Sean O'Malley, he won that fight. Don't care what anyone says, okay? Aljamain Sterling, controversial decision, was backpacked the whole time. Aljamain Sterling won that fight, so these should be green. But again, I can't complain about this one because he did it himself, you know what I mean? But look great against Corey Sandhagen. I believe this is one of the best fighters in the UFC. I believe he's by far the best fighter in the bantamweight division. I cannot believe he's champion. This is crazy. Merab Dvalishvili held Jose Aldo against the fence his entire time last time. Hasn't fought nearly the competition. I don't think he's going to be able, even if he does the same thing, I don't think he's going to be able to hold Petr Yan. I don't think he's going to be able to do the same thing that Aljamain Sterling was able to do to Petr Yan, because Sterling, very, very underrated fighter, very underrated champion. That would be the surprise of the century if Merab did the same thing to Yan. This is my lock of the night. I think Yan's got this is like a minus 500 to me. Like 245. I can't, man. I think he's just better everywhere. Even if we want to have a wrestling match, I think Yan is the best fighter. And people say he's overrated. I do not think he's overrated at all. I think he's the best fighter in the division. One of the best fighters in the UFC. I cannot wait to see him fight. Just like I was talking about Jonathan Martinez earlier. No, don't get me wrong. They're not the same caliber fighter. Yan is obviously better, but he's one of those fighters that I just find absolute pleasure in watching because of their technical abilities. I love watching Petr Yan fight. His boxing is so crisp. Everything he does is technical. It's perfect. I love watching this dude fight, and I think he's going to win a comfortable decision this time. I think he's going to shine. I think he's going to look great. He's going to get back to the title. He's going to stomp whoever's there. That's what I think. I got Yan in this fight, hands down. And guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what your picks are down below, and thank you so much for watching. If you are new here and enjoyed the content, please consider a like button would help a chill and ton, and subscribe if you are brand new. Check the description down below for links to all my other channels, and if you'd like to hear more fight talk about anything MMA related, hit that notification bell. Thanks so much for watching again, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.